muse?
Okay, yeah, we'll muse. Ma tovu halacha Yaakov, Mishkan Asecha Yisrael, is not in this week's Parsha, but it's what I say at the end of Shemona Esrei, because that's the little pasuk for my name. So in some way, Yaakov, Yisrael, there's some good stuff in this week's Parsha, we'll cover it. Parshat Vayishlach. A tapestry. It's honestly just interwoven with all kinds of interesting things. Big words. Yeah. We're using as big of a word as we can. But we cover, I would say, maybe three main arcs. We rejoin our fearless hero. He's not so fearless. He's in a state of fear. He's about to go and meet his brother Esav, who he hasn't seen in 20-something-ish years, and he's full of fear. The last time that they saw each other, Esav said he was going to kill him when his father dies. I'm going to wait and I'm going to kill him when his father dies. So, what does Yaakov do? He starts off with tactical preparations. He makes a plan, he puts people in order, he divides in camps, all these kinds of things. But we see that in a way maybe that isn't really enough. He still has this fear that he's dealing with. So let's maybe take a step back. We'll think about who Yaakov is. We've talked about him in a number of different lights. Yaakov, one of the characters that we refer to him as is in reference to he's a person of emes. And it's in a way it's ironic. I saw it brought down in the Mechtav Meliyahu and others bring it down also that there's an interesting contrast here because Yaakov's Midah of Emes is almost a highlight of all of the things that he faces along the way. He faces challenges that are the opposite of Emes. He faces a challenge of being deceitful and getting the brachos. He faces a challenge of being in Lavan's house, and it's a place full of deceit. And one interesting thing, if you think about it from maybe a more humanist kind of perspective, Rabbi Sachs brings this down, that Yaakov was also a person who was constantly trying to be somebody who he wasn't. He starts off, he's not the Bechor, he tries to buy his way into it, he's deceitful in getting blessings. Like, there's this idea that he's not really at peace with himself and in the person that he is. So we meet him now at this point, a sort of critical junction when he's going to come back after this period of time away, and he's going to meet his brother, and he did all this practical preparation, but he still has fear. So in this one last moment, we have this little story of the struggle with the angel, right? It says Ish in the Parsha. Rashi and a lot of other people bring down that it was probably not an Ish. It was an angel of some kind. But I think what we see from this is that Yaakov goes through this struggle, and he goes through this struggle at night, and he continues to struggle. And at the end of this struggle, he gets the name Yisrael. This name that he gets from overcoming this will. And I think Rabbi Sachs brings down, others say this also, but part of what he was able to do was, in a way, become this authentic version of himself. So he was able to overcome the deceitfulness and the sort of pretending to live up to somebody else's expectations. I think you can actually even see it in the way that he handles the meeting with Esav. He first starts to count all his sheep and say, look, I have all this stuff. And he it's a performative exercise in a way. He's showing him that I have stuff. I was successful. He gives him things. But then when you see that he gets to the actual meeting with Esav, and this is maybe where the interesting part of it is that he meets Esav after placating him in a number of different ways, and Esav falls on his neck. There's a lot of different midrashim. They say that his neck became stone. He fell on him. It was in a way to try and kill him. Interesting things, but I think that one of the ways that we could look at this is also in light of what the neck is. The neck is a way of connecting the head and the heart. And in a way, it's the way that we can bring together this, maybe when stuff is in conflict, it's not actually, connected properly. We see that the way that he was able to meet Esav properly and authentically, and not in a way of fearing for his life anymore, was when he was able to bring those two things together. And it ends up being a very kind of heartfelt moment. Esav cries, they both cry together. They overcome some of the challenges that they faced in the past. So the Parsha continues, and we have this very interesting aside, the story of Shechem, right? So they go to Shechem, and the Dinah gets taken advantage of. All the brothers come up with this plan, and they say, you know what, maybe it's fine if you do a bris milah. And it's clear in the way that it's written also that there is some kind of a conniving, not necessarily deception, but there's some kind of a plan that they put in place here. It's a tactical exercise that they're going to do. You'll circumcise and whatever it is. And then on day 3, Shimon and Levi get really zealous, and they get exuberant about this, and they go out and they kill everyone in Shechem, even after all this negotiation. And what's interesting here is also the way that the story ends, maybe is where we'll focus. Yaakov rebukes his sons in this moment, and he says, you guys did something wrong here. And the last pasuk in the parak ends off with them saying, no, but this, we can't allow this to happen. And end of the story. And I think part of what you see here is also this idea of the way that authenticity shows up. The kids looked at Yaakov, and in no way throwing shade in any way. But they looked at Yaakov, and they saw a person who had a tactical preparation. He put together a plan. He executed on it. And he did something with conviction. And they saw the same thing. They were indignant. They saw their sister was taken advantage of, and they reacted in exactly the same way. But there's a balance. And this is what Yaakov, at the moment, he didn't call them out on it. Later on, and when he's on his deathbed, he says, he curses them, their anger, not them, but he says, their anger should be cursed. But there's this balance when you have authenticity. It shouldn't be to the point of excessive zealotry in this way. To me, it's an interesting aside that they put in there. So the Parsha continues, and there's a little aside here of they go to Beit El. And as a recovery from this is maybe I'm going to connect two parts of the story here. There's Beit El and there's Peniel. So right after Yaakov met the angel, and he has this fight with the angel, he looks at the place and he says, this place it's the place that God was revealed to him. So he calls it Peniel. A second later, literally the next pasuk, maybe the 2 psukim afterwards, it says Panuel. They left Panuel. And it seems like there's sort of it was now in his past. He saw God there, and now he moves on. And that actually kind of leads to the story of Shechem. And then after the story of Shechem, we have this meeting of Beit El. And at that place, Yaakov decides, and God commands him, whatever, but he buries all of the idols of the people. And immediately after that, it says that all the people of the land became afraid of the camp of Yaakov, and they were not in any way challenged. And this is literally what the rebuke was of Yaakov. Yaakov's rebuke was, you guys have ruined my reputation in this land. But he goes and he re-authenticates himself, and he becomes kind of at peace with himself one more time, and then you see that this it does a good influence for him, and he's not at fear anymore. Interestingly, he also buys some land in this place. There was a little aside. The end of the Parsha is kind of it brings together a number of deaths, sad ones. We have a story of Devorah. She dies. Medrash says that as part of that, it was also Rivka. She was her maidservant. Both of them died. Maybe it was the same person. We have the story of Rachel. She has Binyamin, then she dies. We have Yitzchak. At the end, this is finally the re-meeting of Yitzchak and Yaakov, and then he dies also. And then finally, Yaakov and Esav go separate ways because, for prosperity reasons, they need to be in different places. It's interesting, and this is something that's always, really touched me, but the story of Rachel, it says two things. So one, we refer to as our Imenu, and in practical sense, she probably wasn't all of our Imenu. She was the Ima of two of the tribes, not most of them. And it says that she was buried on the side of the road. It's kind of a very sad, touching story. For me, I don't remember if I was ever at Kever Rachel before this, but last year for Chayesar, I went to Kever Rachel, and there's an interesting idea about the fact that we call her this. She prays. She's mevakal banea. There's so many things that she represents for us. Even though she wasn't our mother in this practical sense. I don't know. I remember in the spirit of being authentic and feeling something at the time. It was one of the times in my adult life that I really cried. I don't know what it was about the place that kind of caught me. But the Parsha brings two interesting languages in this week that seem to be very, very odd in the way that the Torah writes language. In Dvarim, it says Ad Hayom a number of different ways, because Moshe is the person that's talking to us. But in this week's Parsha, it says Ad Hayom twice. It says Ad Hayom when we don't eat the Gid Anasha anymore, and it says Ad Hayom when it talks about the burial of Rachel. And I think that, in a way, these are maybe guidances for us to keep in our in our mindset, in the way that we approach the world, Ad Hayom. The story of the Gid Anasha is really a moment of that transition from somebody who was an Akev, who was deceitful, who was maybe not truly authentic, to somebody who was Yisrael, who was somebody who could stand up and advocate on their own behalf and overcome challenges in an amazing way. And the story of Rachel is a story of the ultimate compassion, a person who, from the get-go, the reason why she gets this is because she created the nation by giving up her marriage on that night with Leah. And I think that really if there's any two messages to take from this week's Parsha, are the two things that we should take Ad Hayom Hazeh is one, that strength to find a connection between our head and our hearts, some kind of true wisdom, and go out and do what we need to, and also a recognition that maybe not in the face of zealotry, but to be compassionate and really embody those two. So